Okay, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a really cool kind of accessory review for you from their brand Forstner. Um, these guys have really been on my radar as of late, honestly, just following tasty Instagram posts of everybody rocking these bracelets. I had to see what all the fuss was about because I've seen these people been flexing with these bad boys, and I gotta say, I've been noticing the flex, which I guess flex is the appropriate word because these are beautifully kind of flexing expandable mesh watch bands. Now, a little bit about Forstner, I guess I'm saying that right. There's a part of me that wants to say Forstner, but it's pretty much Forstner. They were originally founded basically as the Forstner Chain Corporation back in about 1920 by William Forstner in New Jersey. And basically in its early years, the company made ornamental jewelry and watch bracelets. They really changed their trajectory back in 1939, though, when they invented a novel strap design that ultimately would be branded as the Komfit with a K. And of course, this is really known to Forstner at the time, and this design would become a part of some of the most significant events in the 20th century, mainly being space travel. Now, this Forstner stainless steel expandable mesh band called the Komfit was one of the only watch bracelets sanctioned by NASA for manned space missions. It was worn by astronauts throughout the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo programs, and even made it into the surface of the moon. After a long hiatus, Forstner has reissued and improved this very classic watch strap. Now, this is the wide version of the Komfit, a JB mesh watch bracelet with straight ends. They do have a horned end version, and this goes for about $125. So it is not cheap, but although I kind of have it on a cheap watch, I mean cheap when you could still find these around anyway. It's definitely a fun option, especially when you have watches that don't have a natural kind of nice bracelet from the factory. I really do like the way this thing comes together in terms of the visual appeal and the functional kind of flexibility from that standpoint. So with all that said, let's zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, now as you can see really quickly, I did want to mention the nice Forstner packaging that this comes in. Little magnetic closure there. And then quite handsome in terms of the way this comes. Very tidy and honestly feels quite premium and thoughtful, and also quite stylish. So big ups to Forstner from that aspect. But let's get this thing out there. Wow. So for those of you that are fans of the channel, this is actually the original Seiko Mecha Quartz watch. I did a video on this years back, and basically it was like $99 watch Nirvana. But honestly, I felt like it was a nice option to kind of show how cool this bracelet is, and honestly also kind of level set in terms of build quality, because this is quite vintageized. It is improved, of course, but ultimately this thing is meant for comfort. This is not some big, super solid, chunky execution from that standpoint. So it's not going to feel super substantial on the wrist. The goal is for you not to even really feel it on the wrist, honestly, guys. And there's a lot that doesn't come across in those tasty Instagram morsels that you're going to catch that hopefully this video will help kind of accentuate. So number one, the end links here, although they are straight, they're actually spring loaded. So you can see there's kind of that center section here. You can see it's maybe not even perfectly centered all the time. It's because it's actually spring loaded, which is great. So it can actually fit end links ranging from, I should say lug widths, fitting from 19 millimeters to 22 millimeters, which I think is outstanding. But with that, the mesh itself is only 18 millimeters for that portion. So it's not something that's going to taper or have any type of refinement from that standpoint, from a visual or from a wear standpoint. But it's a nice width, and that is because this is the wide version, so it is slightly wider than the classic or regular model. It also accepts spring bars up to 1.8 millimeters in diameter, which includes authentic Omega spring bars. I mention Omega, of course, because this is a Moon strap. As much as Moon watches have taken off, even the straps that people used, are also back in popularity. Now, the nice thing is they also do come with internal lug protectors. So if you're putting it on a more expensive or pricey watch, that spring-loaded action, of course, is going to be putting pressure on the case, so it can kind of wear that down and scratch it up. The nice thing is it comes with basically these little dots you'll be able to put near the lug holes essentially, and it will protect the case from extra wear and tear. So it works really well, and you can see here that it is a beautiful setup, and let's take a look here. It actually has flex to it. As you can see, it's actually chain mesh. So it does, look at that. Look at this. You want to talk about comfort? I don't care how you spell it. You spell it with a K. That is, and it's breathable, right? Because again, it's mesh. It's a chain link. You can see individually there. Look at that. You see some daylight through there in a single layer. So again, this is not going to be something that is going to be like, ooh, substantial, pricey bracelet to make my watch case feel complete. And for those of you that are just bracelet lovers, this has a different aspect to the bracelet game. The nice thing is, of course, that it is metal, right? It's all stainless steel. But I think the real thing here is, one, you get the aesthetic that goes along, and even though it doesn't have fitted end links, it's still quite a good look. I think it has some nice characteristics here in the way that they did the spring-loaded lug end there. It just really works, and I think visually ties in, and it captures a beautiful vintage aesthetic, which of course I think this Panda dial option does also play off of in terms of vintage aesthetic. So I thought it'd be kind of a good match, although it's not the typical watch you would see on these types of straps. I think it does kind of speak to that aesthetic, which I really enjoy. One thing, though, is that with all this extra function and whatnot, it can be a little bit finicky. I might even have to take off the gloves to get this thing on the wrist. But essentially, what you have here is a system that is very easy to adjust. Basically, you lift this lever here, and then this will slide up and down, similar to to most meshes with this setup there. So you can see where it says basically that JB, this will slide up and down, controlling the length. And then when you actually want to get it on and off and you have it set, this is actually a button, really nicely finished there at that. But again, not super luxurious because it is actually quite hollow. You just push this button down and then it will release the teeth. And there you have it. Now you can see, again, look at how much more this thing expands. It's absolutely killer. And then you can get a better look. Look at the daylight that comes through this band here. And then you can see it can compress, expand. Yes. Some of you are seeing this and thinking, oh yeah, look at that. This thing has got legs. But also some of you are probably looking at it and going, ooh, man, that looks super loose. And it's kind of a combination of both. To give you guys a look at this clasp mechanism, it is pretty much hollow. So the nice thing, though, is that they do have this cool setup here with the trigger. So okay, sorry. I'm going to pull the gloves back just a bit because there's always that little extra slack that creeps up, and basically you pull that back, and then these teeth here that hold it, there we go. As you can see, that actually secure your watch. So as finicky as this thing is going to be in terms of putting it on your wrist, it coming off of your wrist is a very, very deliberate situation. You know what? I was actually kind of mulling over maybe getting this on the wrist off camera just to make it kind of a cleaner video. But some of you are probably going to buy this thing and be wondering, how the heck do I get this thing on my wrist? So I will struggle through it for you guys. And if I can do it reaching around a tripod, you guys will all be able to do it from home. So let's go ahead. I'll quickly take off my other glove here. Get this on wrist. All right, so basically you're just going to take that, pull it. Look at that. You see how it can expand even further than you thought because of that give in the mesh? That's just beautiful, honestly. And some of you are like, ugh, gross. For me, though, and, you know, for those of you that really enjoy a good mesh or even kind of a Jubilee, oh, see? Not on the first try. It would be nice if they kind of had some angling on those teeth so that you could actually just kind of press apply without worrying about the trigger. All right, nice. Got it on there, righteous. So you can see fits on really nice. And again, there's still give even though it is a metal bracelet, which is a really nice feature. So it feels infinitely comfortable, even though I make my wrist as fat as I can make it. And then I pull on this case, there's still going to be a touch of give, but it can also kind of retract itself and still sit and hold itself above that wrist bone. So I really dig that. And man, on the wrist, does this thing ever just kind of play with the light, capture it, and just do things. It just has such a cool vintage aesthetic. It's one of those things where you're getting all the light play and texturing from the mesh itself. Then you have these visually interesting keepers, and also the lug ends are really just quite nice to look at, really. I think that can kind of be my problem with other mesh bracelets, is that just kind of the flat bar that will come across just comes across flat visually. It's not super interesting. Here, you're getting a lot of functional little knickknacks, doodads, and contours that all serve a functional purpose, which makes this thing just that much more special. You know, really, I guess if I was to summarize, yeah, this is a great looking vintage style bracelet that can be fitted to many different timepieces. And when I say many different, I mean many, because this thing will fit 19 millimeter lugs, 20 millimeter, 21, or 22 because of that spring loaded action on the ends here. So really cool. Of course, again, it does have a little bit of finick factor to it, so it's not going to be the most seamless everyday wear, at least getting it on and off. But I will say, having it on the wrist is it makes it worth it, guys. It really does. The extra 45 seconds to a minute you're going to take messing with this clasp potentially, because you could get lucky on first swipe. It's worth it once you're wearing it, because once you do, oh man, does it just it's butter on the wrist, guys. You looking for butter? You're looking for some wrist candy, some man candy, some eye candy. Man, this is it. Forstner. Wow, I'm really glad you guys reissued these, because it is quite nice. And again, although the price, it's not cheap at 125 bucks, it's also not super expensive. It's not, I mean, there are NATOs that cost more than that. Looking at you, Omega. So again, you can get something like this, and you don't necessarily have to think of it as like this big $100+ investment for one watch, because it has the spring-loaded bars there, and it doesn't do that in a cheap way. It actually does that in a fun kind of engineering way, because there are other meshes that are out there that do have spring-loaded ends. But man, this one, the way it does it though, look at that. It almost has this kind of Man, I don't even want to. It's just a cool aesthetic. It definitely has that kind of mid-century modern appeal, and I really, really dig it. So, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do hit like. You know, throw a couple comments in there. Really, what do you think what do you think of these? Check them out on Instagram. Honestly, some of my favorite accounts. You guys peer pressured me. How dare you? By just having these on various watches, and I'm like, what is this band? And then of course it has this epic background of being this thing that was worn on the moon, and being a watch idiot savant or a watch geek. I have to say that it of course is a fun little attribute, and I think it works, and it honestly brought some new life to this watch, which generally has been a strap monster for me, where typically this is on various different rally straps to fit that kind of motorsports appeal, but then I put it on this mesh and all of a sudden it becomes this like vintage looking piece. So I dig it, and it also definitely does add some great tool watch vibes as well. So I can't stress enough how comfortable this thing is, guys. I'm gonna have to cut it short here, but definitely follow up with me in the comments and let me know what you think. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.